Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has officially taken over India's G20 presidency from Indonesian President Joko Widodo in Bali. Addressing the leaders of the G20 countries, Indian Prime Minister Modi said that India's G20 presidency will be inclusive, it will be ambitious, decisive and action-oriented.
भारत G20 का जिम्मा ऐसे समय ले रहा है जब विश्व जियोपॉलिटिकल तनावों, आर्थिक मंदी, खाद्यान्न और ऊर्जा की बढ़ी हुई कीमतों और महामारी के दीर्घकालीन दुष्प्रभावों से एक साथ जूझ रहा है। ऐसे समय विश्व G20 की तरफ आशा की नजर से देखता है। आज मैं ये आश्वासन देना चाहता हूं कि भारत की G20 अध्यक्षता इंक्लूसिव, एम्बिशियस, डिसिसिव और एक्शन ओरिएंटेड होगी।
During the closing ceremony of the G20 summit, the Indian Prime Minister asserted on how it is imperative to keep women-led development as a priority during its tenure. He also outlined the importance of sustainable lifestyle. India will be assuming the group's presidency from December 1st and is expected to host 200 G20 meetings, with the first meet expected to take place next month itself. For more on this, we are now joined by our principal diplomatic correspondent, Sidhant Sibal from Bali. Sidhant, the handover has officially taken place. What more can you tell us about it?
Well, it's a significant moment for India. India will be chairing the grouping, it has been handed over, but the presidency starts from 1st of December. And it's for the first time that India will be the president of the grouping, a grouping that essentially became a grouping of heads of government or states after the 2008 financial crisis. We have heard the speech of the Indian Prime Minister, but what I can tell you from Bali is that the mood is ecstatic in the Indian delegation, because this is something that everyone was looking forward to. We saw the visuals of the handing over ceremony, the Indonesian president handing over that baton when it comes to the presidency. But when it comes to the Indian presidency, one thing is for sure, it comes at a time when there are concerns and challenges. We know the Indonesian presidency was very tough because of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and that essentially put Indonesia in a spot, given that it had to act as a bridge between Russia and the West. Now, that job India has to do for next 1 year, starting from 1st of December, how it can bridge the divide between Russia and the West. And will Russian President Vladimir Putin attend the summit that takes place in the month of September in New Delhi? That will be a significant moment if India is able to bring the Russian President Vladimir Putin and of course the Western leaders together at the same platform. That will be a significant diplomatic victory for India. And also remember that this time there hasn't been any family photo, while this is just all the leaders coming together. But the fact that it has not happened also shows that there was a major divide between West and Russia.
Thank you so much, Sidhant. Stay with us, because I want to come back to you for some more questions that I need to know about the event that is taking place. Now, it is day 2 of the 17th G20 Leaders Summit in Bali, and the leaders of the group of 20 major economies have issued a declaration outlining that they deplore in the strongest terms Russia's aggression against Ukraine. The declaration also said that most members strongly condemned the war in Ukraine, further outlining on how the international law must be upheld. Chinese President Xi Jinping met with the French President Emmanuel Macron on the sidelines of the summit. Macron said that both the countries should rejoin forces in order to tackle the same big international challenges, including the climate change and the crisis in Ukraine. However, a planned meeting between UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and Chinese President Xi Jinping has been cancelled. According to Downing Street, the meet between the two leaders was cancelled due to scheduling issues. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who has officially taken over India's G20 presidency, also held separate bilaterals with leaders of 8 countries on the margins of the 2-day summit. That is with Indonesia, Spain, France, Singapore, Germany, Italy, Australia and the United Kingdom. Sidhant, I'd like to come back to you for a little more on how most of the G20 members have condemned the war in Ukraine. They've condemned Russia for it. Can you tell us more about it?
Well, that was expected, but most of these countries are Western countries, and that was the big difficulty. In fact, just 24 hours ago, the fear was that there will be no joint communique. The communique has, of course, been issued. And what's the most interesting part is that the communique refers to an interesting statement by the Indian Prime Minister that this is not the time for war. Now, this exact statement was told or talked about by the Indian Prime Minister to the Russian President at the bilateral that happened in Samarkand at the sidelines of the SCO summit. So that is another major diplomatic victory for India, that while India was able to bridge the gap along with emerging countries like Indonesia, it was able to put its point across, and its statement got a lot of resonance. So while there was condemnation by Western leaders, the fact that the joint statement came out shows that there is a victory as well, that all the countries of the G20 grouping are on the same page with the release of the joint communique.
Sidhant, there are also a lot of bilaterals which have been planned for the day for PM Modi. Can you tell us more about those?
Well, 8 bilateral meetings are planned, some of which have happened with the French president. It has happened with the Singaporean Prime Minister. It's still underway. There's meeting with the German Chancellor, with the Italian leadership, the new Italian leadership, and a host of other leaders. And this is expected given the fact that this is a big ticket summit and it provides occasion for the world leaders to engage with each other. But it also helps India to reaffirm its partnership with these countries. There are major significant bilaterals. The French has happened. We are expected to get a statement or a readout by the Ministry of External Affairs, also by the French Foreign Ministry. But one meeting that everyone is looking forward to is the meeting between the Indian Prime Minister and Britain's first Indian origin Prime Minister, that's Rishi Sunak. There's a pact that is expected to be announced as well on movement of people, which is going to increase the number of Indians that can go to UK for education and for employment.
Thanks so much, Sidhant, for all the updates.